I know, it's kind of wild. So, welcome to the BSB podcast today. So, it's the first live episode we've ever done. And I say live because we have an audience here. Usually we're in the back doors of somebody's office. Today, we're actually at Brock University doing a really great interview with my friend Julian Franklin, who we're going to talk about in a second. But I just want to take the second to recognize how awesome this is to be able to be at Brock with the students and with a live audience to get full reaction. And we're going to even have Q&A today. So let's get started with this episode 5, I heard. Episode 5 of the podcast. Welcome, Julian. I'm so excited.
So glad to be here. Thank you.
Thank you for making the trek from Toronto. I know that, it can be what it is, but you're here.
I'm here, wouldn't miss it, and this is amazing. And congratulations on the podcast and everything you're doing. So let's have some fun.
Thank you. I mean, Julian is the Vice President of Partnership Development and Strategy. That's a lot of things.
A lot of things.
At MLSE. For those who don't know, MLSE is Maple Leaf Sports and Entertainment. This is an international podcast. For sports and entertainment. So we're going to talk about what your role is currently, but let's talk about a couple steps back. So how did you start this sport thing? Because a lot of people don't know how to get into sport, especially as students. How did you start your sport journey?
Yeah, wow, it's a great question, and I have a multi-layered answer.
Let's go.
But I'll take a step back. My start in sport really was by a happy accident.
Okay.
Because if you would have asked the 18 to 20-year-old Julian when he was graduating from high school and going to university what he wanted to be, he would have said he wanted to be a lawyer.
Oh, so you have Jamaican parents.
Yes, I have Jamaican parents, that's right. Doctor, lawyer,
engineer,
exactly. So 100%. I was following that path and, really had felt that was going to be my path. And even as a child, watch Law and Order, watch LA Law, was really in love with the idea of becoming a lawyer, litigating, and really was somebody who enjoyed public speaking and doing all those things. And, went so far as graduated from the University of Ottawa, which is my alma mater. I'm a GG. Yeah, we won't tell any Badgers, but I'm a GG. And was going to be on my way to law school. I wrote my LSATs and was really considering what my options were as far as law school. And then what happened, back to this happy accident, was I was approached with an opportunity to be an intern with the Toronto Blue Jays.
Okay.
And it was a summer internship that essentially catapulted my career. Now, how I got an internship with the Blue Jays, even back in the 90s, which is when I won't give you my age, but the time that I started, really was almost a product of what I was doing as I was coming up in the ranks of being a young teenager and in high school.
Okay.
Very community service oriented. I still continue to be this to this day. And the town I grew up in, the town of Stouffville, Ontario, I was very active in helping create and build the first track and field facility that the town of Stouffville ever had.
Really?
Yeah, and really, the output of that work, that unbeknownst to me, the work that I had done because I'd want to do this for my community, kind of catapulted what my career is today. And I think it's something that I say to everybody that's either listening to this podcast around the world or even in this audience. The building blocks of where you are 20, 30 years down the road really are the foundations of where you were in your first to 20 years.
Okay.
My passion for sport and my passion for community has led me into sports. But it was an indirect path because I thought my passion was going to be into law and the ability to be a public speaker. And so my career started with the Blue Jays.
Yep.
What that internship turned into a magnificent time. I was with the Jays for 7 years. My first job was taking the World Series trophies.
Rough life.
Yeah, rough life. On a speaking tour across North America.
Oh,
so
wow.
I would drive in a yellow Ryder van with the actual 1992 and 93 World Series trophies, the authentic ones, in the back. And I would go to schools, I would go to hospitals, I would go to community centers, I would go to, you name every fair in small town Canada. I would show up with the World Series trophies and speak about the benefit of the World Series coming to Canada, Toronto Blue Jays being the first club to win the World Series outside of the U.S. And, all that kind of catapulted, my ability to have, the chops to public speak, the courage to be in front of audiences, and really that was kind of the stepping stone for where, quite frankly, I am today. So sports started my career and currently with MLSE.
So first of all, you're probably Mr. Popular because everybody wanted to get their hands on this trophy back in the day.
Yes.
And I'm sure if we ever got it back, do you think he would call you back to come and do it again, or you'd find somebody else to do it?
I hope the Blue Jays asked me because I think I did a good job. I did a good job, because that internship of speaking with the trophies led into a full-time position with the Jays.
Okay.
I became their community relations coordinator, and then became their marketing coordinator, and then eventually became a marketing manager for the Jays during my 7-year career there. And doing everything from working with our players to our alumni to traveling, around, Canada, the Blue Jays Caravan, which was a big component of that as well, which is something that we kickstarted, and we just did a lot of fantastic things. And really, I fell in love with baseball too, because I wasn't really a baseball fan. I was more of a footy, as we say here, or soccer, and I played hockey growing up, but really didn't understand baseball as much, but really became a huge fan of the Blue Jays and Major League Baseball.
So there's two things I want to highlight there. The fact that you didn't even know much about baseball,
Right.
but you got a job at the Blue Jays.
Yeah.
So many people think you have to know about the sport in order to get a job in the sport. So that's not accurate.
Not accurate.
I don't know a lot of things about a lot of things, and I still work in sports.
Yes.
So that's the first myth I want to bust. The other one is people think you have to know how to get into sport, and sometimes you just fall into it. So you were in university, going to law school, doing all these things, and then a segue led you into a completely different path. So how do people position themselves well to be able to open something? Because a lot of people have their blinkers on. A lot of my students are like, I want to do this. I'm like, okay, well, that's great.
Yeah.
Always nice to have a goal, but be open enough to accept other opportunities that might give you more information.
It's great advice, and it's something that, unbeknownst to me, I was open, right? I kept myself open to opportunities. Even though I felt that, my path was going to be a lawyer, my path was really about being someone who was open to community service, someone who wanted to be in front of people, someone who wanted to meet individuals, be outside of my comfort zone, meet those who are going to hopefully down the road help me, but also I would help them. And I think that that's something for a lot of us who are just starting out in our university career or even our careers in general. The ability to put your blinders on and focus is incredibly important. But the ability to have the wherewithal to expand your aperture, understand that there's so many other things that you could be doing. There's 24 hours a day. Everyone's trying to pack it to be, as effective as possible. The focus on your work is incredibly important. The focus on what's around you, meeting new people, engaging, stepping out of your comfort zone, doing certain things is helpful too. And for me, it worked out. And I think that's something I tell a lot of folks, who ask how I got to a certain position or where are you at your certain stage of your career. You are incredibly able to work hard, which we know, but are you also incredibly open to meeting new people, engaging new opportunities that could lead you in a different path?
So speaking of different paths, so you've come down the road quite a bit. So now you're a VP. So here's my question. I work in partnership. People don't know what on earth I do. So can you, in layman's terms, explain to people what partnership is in the sports space? And then tell us what you do.
So, partnerships are all about relationships, right? And relationships are, I don't know about everybody else, but relationships are incredibly important to me. I thrive on building relationships. That's how I get my cup filled, meeting people, helping people, learning about what makes people, so unique and special, and then hopefully imparting some of that unique and special aspects of myself to them and creating a relationship.
Right.
And that's what partnerships are. Partnerships for us, currently, my time at Maple Leaf Sport and Entertainment has been fantastic. I've been with them just the better part of 2 years.
Already?
And it goes pretty quickly.
Well,
It's under that amount, but it goes by fast. And it's really about knowing that our brands and our teams are something that really have an emotional connection to 20 plus million fans across Canada. When you think of the Toronto Maple Leafs, when you think of TFC, when you think of the Raptors and the Toronto Argos, we are driving, really what is the life and heartbeat of a city, especially when the team's doing well. I mean, even as we do this podcast, our Raptors have gone through some changes. Top of the bill news on Twitter.
Yes.
You
mean X?
Yes. I mean X. All social media feeds on what's happening.
Yeah.
But really, when you think about sport is culture, and that really drives what's keeping people excited about what's going on with your city, what's going on with the players, and what's going on in things that are moving forward to really drive what is exciting about sports. Brands want to be a part of that, and partnerships for us are incredibly important because those brands who are some of the top brands in the world, when you think of great partners like Google and AWS, et cetera, how are they really tapping into their consumer and, benefiting and working with brands that really drive the passion of a particular, subsection within the country. And really, partnerships helps drive that and accentuate what their values are.
Yeah.
And then helps identify what our values are in return, and we're able to have that 1 + 1 = 3.
The alignment is super important.
The alignment is incredibly important. So when you think about some of the partnerships, when you either here at Brock University or with MLSE, how are those driving the ability to bring those two things together to really have that 1 + 1 = 3?
Okay, and people probably are not as familiar, but partnerships drives the machine for sport. Like without ticket sales are fantastic.
Yep.
Buy your tickets.
Yeah.
Ticket sales are fantastic, but partnership really drives that cog because the corporate partners put a lot of investment into the sport to be able for it to be on the caliber that it is.
Yep.
And be able to compete on the world stage that it is. So it's always cool to see that MLSE is always very innovative in terms of how they execute their partnerships, how they give partners definitive lanes to swim in and give them that certainty that yes, you can break through the clutter, reach an audience in an authentic way and convey your brand in a positive way to your Canadian audience.
You definitely can. And, when you think about our partners, our partners understand that, our stadiums where our teams play, thankfully, they're 99.9% sold out every game. When you go to Scotiabank Arena, it's a full house coming to see the Leafs and the Raptors. Same with TFC, same with the Argos. But what's almost as equally important is the audiences outside of the stadium that follow our teams, right? And when you think about different segments, young, old, black, white, man, woman, following our teams, those are things that are important to brands. So when you think about a brand who wants to align with what the consumer is saying and what is exciting the consumer to deliver a message, partnerships helps do that because, for us, thankfully, with our teams, there's almost a 24/7, 365 cycle, for our teams. There's really no month or week that MLSE teams are not somehow involved, in the calendar year. So, hopefully, come this spring, we'll have the Leafs and maybe the Raptors in the playoffs, but we'll see.
TFC kicks in.
The TFC kicks in, and then as you move into the summer, the Argos kick in, and then as we move out of kind of the summertime, TFC continues to play, and then Leafs and the Raptors start up again. And so it's a full cycle. So for a lot of brands who want to be able to identify with that, that's a key component.
Correct.
Partnerships really drives, that awareness as well, because when we have partners who understand that they could be in front of a consumer, as they would say, always on, that really is something that also provides kind of that foundation. So it is something that is a two-way street. And again, back to what I was saying, the two of us together, 1 + 1 = 3.
So 3.
Yeah.
Don't tell your friends that math works. It does not work in the real world, okay?
Yeah.
So I'm going to change gears on you really quick. I want to ask you, being one of the only black professionals at this level in sport in Canada, do you ever take that in and what that means to you as an individual? Or is it do you have a responsibility to make sure representation is there and why it needs to be there? Yeah,
I mean, I definitely do. I'm proud to be a black leader and a black executive within the sports industry. I would love there to be more of us, right? I would love there to be a continuation of individuals that are like me, that are out there. And there are more than me just out there. So that that's encouraging, but I think there's an opportunity for us to be more, right? So as I was coming up in my career, again, it was always a one of one. And thankfully I've been in my career long enough over the last better part of the last 2+ decades that I've seen there's a lot more of us within our network, within the industry, right? And whether that we're at a coordinator level or manager level or director level or VP level or even a C-suite CEO level, there's more of us that are there that are doing a better job of staying connected for one, but also supporting each other, right? And I think that's one of the things that's incredibly important as we look at many of the individuals who are coming up and saying, where do I fit in? Where am I able to plant my flag? Because I want to, be a part of the sports industry. I have something to give, and we see this so, so apparent in so many other, walks of life. Like, how are sports not having a better representation within the Canadian landscape. I think it's a question that continues to need a proper answer. Myself, yourself, many others are doing what we can. I'm incredibly proud of what I've done to this point, but I still think there's a lot more to go and a lot more doors for me to continue to open to support and bring many of us that look like us into the fold. So yeah.
It's funny because on the last episode of the BSB podcast, we interviewed your friend, Mark Harrison.
Yep.
And Mark said, when you look on the fields, you look on the courts, you look on the pitches, it looks very different from what it looks like behind closed doors.
Yeah.
And we have to do what we can to make sure that there's some more representation there. And don't get me wrong, the last 10 years has metamorphosized.
Yes, definitely. It's definitely accelerated.
Correct.
But there's a lot more to go. And I think that Mark's right. I mean, when you look at the field on the fields, there's a disproportionate number of Black or BIPOC athletes that are doing great things on the field across the major sports. When you look at what happens in the boardrooms, what's happening when decisions are being made, there's a disproportionate lack of non-BIPOC and Black individuals, right?
Disproportionate.
So I think that there's a reality that there's a continuation. Now, what I would say is this: there's work being done, and to your point, Marsha, we've done a lot, but there's a lot for us to go. And as we sit here, right in the middle of Black History Month or Black Futures Month, as we like to say as well, because we're looking ahead to the future. That's for us who are in the audience, but also for us who are in current day. It's important for us to continue to look back, but we also have to look forward, right? So we know that hey, if someone like Julian is doing this, I can do that, and it may not take me 10 to 15 years to be in Julian's chair. It may take me 5 to 10, right? And that's how you know that the acceleration of what we're doing is making a difference. Because here's the secret that needs to be told. When you're in these boardrooms, the talent, the level of sophistication, the education, and the smarts, we have it. It's there, and that's something that, unless you understand it quite fully, and you need to be told, do not doubt yourself. You belong in the room. You have the horsepower from a talent standpoint and intelligence standpoint to do the things that need to be done. It's really about how you're continuing to affect change and push forward. So
thanks for saying that.
We welcome all those in those rooms with us, because no longer is it just myself, in those rooms. Now there's a couple of others, right? Good. And it's only going to increase more and more and more. So hopefully it'll happen before I retire.
Speaking of retirement, I love how you just set my segues up. I appreciate that. It makes my job a lot easier.
See, well, we're close,
we work
right?
together. See, 1-on-1-3.
Yeah, exactly.
So how would you describe the space of your career? You've done a number of things in your career so far. You have done entrepreneurship. You've done consumer packaged goods. You've worked in sport. How would you describe this phase of your career?
This is a fun phase of my career.
Oh, fun!
Yes,
we're having fun.
I'm working probably as hard as I ever have, but I'm enjoying it immensely for a couple of reasons. I love to be able to share and teach, and now essentially coming back into corporate, for lack of a better term, full circle for my career, and engaging now and leading a large team and leading quite honestly is probably the preeminent sports and entertainment organization in North America, which I'm incredibly proud to be a part of. It's a lot of fun because I'm learning, right? MLSE is where the best of the best and the cream of the crop from sports entertainment are residing. This is where people want to get into. This is where people understand that once they get their foot in the door, there's so many things that opens up to what is, quite frankly, an awesome conglomerate company. We're just not a sports and entertainment company. We're top when it comes to food and beverage and restaurants. We're top when it comes to managing facilities.
And venues,
we're top when it comes to nutrition and athletics. So the play on the field is incredibly important. But when you think about peel back the layers of the infrastructure, what makes us go, it's fantastic. People don't even really know that we are one of the top digital companies within Canada, because a lot of the stuff that we do, with the brands like AWS and Google are helping drive what the performance is on the field. So really MLSE, really has become, just this amazing, company that is a talent factory, and people want to get in. The best and the brightest are coming in, and we're producing the best and brightest, as they stay with us or exit and go into the workforce. So for me, at my stage of my career, right now, I'm really getting pushed in a great way because I'm getting to manage so many, talented elite level individuals who come up through the ranks when either at school or coming up through different aspects of the career to land there. My career, taking a step back, started in sport, and it's funny, it's almost like as I look at kind of my career trajectory, I'm kind of sort of ending in sport, but in between, before after I'd left the Blue Jays and before I joined MLSE, if you look at my middle, I decided to move into packaged goods and brand marketing and really, understand that what is the story and theory behind why consumers and individuals are attracted to brands, right? Why, why are we doing the things we do and making the decisions around brands? And you really understand kind of, the science behind that and what's driving people to make those purchase decisions one over the other. And really my time at companies like Weston Foods and Kraft Foods really helped kind of codify that. The other component of my career, which is something that really benefited me, was my ability to take risks. And by that I mean, in the midst of a career, going to the U.S. and taking a chance and going to live in Chicago for 4 years at the midpoint of my career, and really learning to see how another market, and quite frankly the biggest market in the world when it comes to consumer packaged goods, and quite frankly economies, like how does that work? What's it mean to go there? What's it mean to understand risks are being taken that can drive revenue, making decisions, leading people, and going outside of your comfort zone. And that really helped me, move to the next phase of my career, which was to step out of packaged goods and move into general management and entrepreneurship. And I, had the ability to run a small business, for a number of years and have a certain level of success and enjoying that and running my own company before being approached to come back into the corporate world with MLSE. So it's kind of gone full circle, but all the while, a lot of the abilities for me to do what I was able to do, learn, fail, get back up and do it again, right? Or all about kind of the same things that helped kind of set me up when I got my first job, as I had talked about before. The ability to understand, about networking, the ability to have that vision, resilience, and self-confidence in myself, because quite frankly, as a lot of us know who are BIPOC or Black, you have to have that, innate resilience to do it on your own before you're able to bring more people in, because it's just, there was no silver spoon. There was no step into a role here because, I know so-and-so. It was one of these things that I was able to kind of build a foundation, and thankfully, the foundation I was rewarded by, getting opportunity. So it was good.
And I'm happy you said that, because not a lot of people really understand that your journey in sport can look very different, and everybody's path is very different. A lot of people think, okay, I get into sport, I work in sport, I might just chill out here. Actually, no. It can vary. Some people go in and out, some people go brand side, come back. So it's definitely about honing your own journey and understanding what works best for your development and the next phase of your career.
And you can have that focus on sport. There's nothing wrong with having that focus. There's nothing wrong at all. But know that your commitment to sport is going to be matched by somebody else's commitment to sport. Because I'm sure everyone says that they love sports in this room. I love sports. But if you love sports, know that you need something that's going to differentiate yourself. Because loving sports almost can be table stakes, right? Because, that is almost that expectation when you come into this role. That's almost that expectation that I'm going to work late nights, I'm going to be up early mornings. There's a lot of us that are doing that.
Everybody's doing that.
And everyone's tired, right? But what is your differentiator, right? And so we want more BIPOC and Black individuals in sport, but know that the ability to work hard is just a table stakes. What is your unique selling proposition? What is your authentic self that's going to be able to differentiate you? And then once you have that, lean into it, because it's only yours, right? No one else can replicate that, right? And that's going to be something that's going to be a differentiator.
So we have to differentiate ourselves, be open-minded. I'm trying to keep track of all the advice you're dropping now. Just because at the end of it, I'm going to do a quiz because we're at school. No, I'm just kidding. We're not doing any quizzes. So a lot of people don't know this, but your family is a sport family.
Sport family,
Like top to bottom.
So it's true.
How does that happen? So how do you, is it influential? Is it something like, oh my God, this is so cool, yay, let's all do it? Or is it something where I saw opportunities based on somebody else going ahead of me? Like, I'm just so curious how that whole thing unfolded.
It is really interesting when you take a look back at it, because we're living in a really unique time for for myself, my brother,
Yeah.
and my son. So for the benefit of the podcast, my brother is Jermaine Franklin,
Yep.
anchor on the desk on TSN. He's been with TSN for the better part of 20 years. Was a reporter in Calgary for 16 years. Then moved back home to Toronto and has been on the desk for the better part of the last 3.5, 4 years. And Jermaine and I, even though I'm the older brother and a few years
You
apart,
are the older one?
I am the older. Thank you for saying
Oh,
that.
I didn't know. Honestly, I thought Jermaine was the older one.
Thank you for saying that. Thank you for saying that. This is live, right?
Yes, recorded.
There's
He's the
no
older
laugh
one.
track. That's
Okay.
that's real laughter
Yes.
out there. Yeah.
Thanks for clearing that up.
Yeah. So Jermaine is the younger one, but he is taller. He's 6'4", so don't worry. So, but his passion and my passion were really about just how can we continue to kind of support each other in the world of sports. Jermaine saw that my opportunity with the Blue Jays was something that he was interested in, but from a different angle. He always wanted to be in front of the camera, and media was something that was a passion for him. And he started his journey, doing radio, working long nights and early mornings with the Fan 590 Cruiser,
Yeah.
and doing a lot of radio interstitials, and then working with Rogers TV and Toronto Star TV, and kind of just building up his repertoire until finally he got his break, and it worked quite hard to get it, and was very successful and continues to be successful at TSN.
Okay.
And then my oldest son, Kobe. Kobe is. It's kind of cool to say he's a professional athlete.
You're living in my dream right now. Did I tell you this before? You're living in my whole dream. Yes.
So
my son is a professional athlete.
Yeah, he is a professional athlete. He is the starting right back for Toronto FC. And Kobe is going into his second year. He was a rookie last year with TFC. And really, has had a fantastic journey, even though he's incredibly young. He's still 20 years old. But, really showed, the ability of living out a dream, which he had since he was 4 years old, to become a professional athlete. Soccer, as we call it in-house, footy, was his passion. He really honed his craft. He became, elite at his level, and really now continues to do what he needs to do. And it's great to see where he is in his career, even though it's just beginning. It's a journey that, quite frankly, we're hoping and praying that it continues to be quite successful for him. So with Jermaine,
wait, he played with Messi last year.
Yes, you're right. Thank you for putting that in.
Anytime.
He did play with Lionel Messi, who is his idol, and so it's one of these things that at such a young age, at 19, 20, getting to play with your idol, being on the same pitch as your idol, doing something that, quite frankly, you love, and as he could say, I've been doing this all my life, Dad. And it's, even though his life is only 19 years long, but it's like how do you get that? You've achieved your goals already, so young, but but he has a lot of things that he's driven towards that we're our fingers crossed as a family that we hope to look forward to. I know that this upcoming season is going to be incredibly important. I know that his journey and maturation as a professional athlete is going to be incredibly important as we look at the World Cups and his hope for the national team, what that means for him in 2026 and beyond. So there's lots of things that we're incredibly proud of. Both of Kobe as well as Jermaine. On the sports side. And then last but not least, we sit here today at Brock University. And our second son, Kalen, is in his first year. He's in the crowd. He's taking his first year of sports management at Brock University. And it's something that, quite honestly, it's important to him that he sees, not only his family and his father and others and his brother being engaged and doing well at this level, so he knows that it's possible, but also, to help support, quite frankly, the number of us who are trying to make our way in sports management who are Black and BIPOC. So, we're very proud of Kalen for starting his journey, proud of Kobe for just, in the throes of his beginning of his journey, and then my brother doing all that he's doing at TSN.
You guys just a small flex. No big deal, right? Well, let me go get my family together, because I don't know what we're doing over here.
No, we still argue over turkey dinner and all sorts of stuff. Don't worry.
Who gets the leg?
Yeah, exactly. So
I want to, as we kind of close down, because I want to be able to open up to the audience so they can ask their questions. I think I was hogging the mic at this point. What would you want other people to know about working in sport business?
Yeah, I mean, the sport business is what you imagine it is, right? It's incredibly fun. It's incredibly passionate. It's incredibly fulfilling. There's highs, there's lows. But, you know, it is an amazing place to be in. And if you love sports, you know, you want to continue to be in this role. Like university will lead you to hopefully an opportunity. That opportunity will lead you into your first role. That opportunity, as you grow, will lead you to another role in sports. And know that the people within the industry are fantastic. Know that you'll be able to have an ability to lead a conversation at a cocktail hour anytime, because people always want to be curious about your job. They want to know what sports is going on. What do you know about who, what, where?
Yeah, give me the
player trades.
scoop.
Give me the scoop. What's happening. And then the one thing that we're super excited about as you look at the future, there's so many things that are going to be happening, within the world of sport over the next couple of years. I've mentioned our MLSE teams, but when we look at some of the biggest global events that are going to be happening, FIFA World Cup coming to Toronto.
That's wild.
It's something that, for me personally, I could talk for hours about what that's going to mean for our city, what that's going to mean to have the global game coming to Canada. And, at this time when our men's team is starting to go like this, our women's team, which recently won the gold medal, and then continue to do well in World Cup, like those are things that are going to be drivers. But then on another level, what sports means, and at amateur level, to so many of the communities and universities across the country. So it is what you think it is because of the people. It is what you think it is because of the thrill and the emotional aspect of what you're building in your brand. So I would say, you're in the right place, but your journey to stay here or get there is your own journey. So know that the effort that you'll make is going to be matched by the effort that people beside you are going to make. But also know that the differentiator is what you have inside that's going to drive you to your next level. So that's what I would say about sports.
Okay. I think you said a lot of good things, and it's mostly about the people. I would agree with that. Working with people that you like matters a lot, and that you can build good relationships with, because you do things with people that you like. So a lot of the industry is like that. I'm going to just preface this second. If you like to ask Julian a question, we're going to segue that, but there's a microphone right here. And you'll be able to come up to the microphone after my last two questions. I want to give you enough time to think of a question, because if we don't have one, boys, it's not going to be a fun experience. So think of a question and ask it, but I'm going to continue talking to you. This is a staple question for the podcast.
Right.
Why is it necessary to be black in sport business?
Yeah, great question. It's necessary because we need to see each other who are in the industry. I need to know that Marsha is doing what she is doing in the industry, and I need to keep supporting and bigging up Marsha. On the other side, Marsha needs to see Julian, because she needs to know that there's someone who is an ally within the industry that can help her get where she needs to go. And then, quite frankly, she could say, "I see myself in that role," and knowing that there's an executive, at one of the preeminent sports entertainment companies in North America that looks like me, is like me, and I can have that connection.
Right.
It's also important for many of us, as we talked about earlier, to have the influence in the boardrooms in the sport that, quite frankly, in a lot of cases, we are the majority, right? So there needs to be that counterbalance, So the disproportionality needs to be leveled out, and so it's important, for us to do that. But also, it's important for us not to be shy about the fact that we are black, we are BIPOC, we're in sport, and this is something that we're meant to be here. So I'm proud, I've, outside of being in sports, always been proud of my family, always been proud of my heritage, always been proud of my race, and I continue to accentuate that in many different ways. But, it's incredibly important as we talk about sports for us to do this for each other, so individuals can take this and whether it's a minute of this, a second of it, or the last 40 minutes, to build where they need to go, because we need those individuals in our industry. We
definitely do, and it's important for us, because something as simple as you can see it, you can be it, right? And it's for us to actually kind of know how far we can go. So, well, okay, cool, if Julian is there, that means it's attainable. And it makes it way more believable for me to kind of push myself, because at least I know it's a possibility I'll get there.
And there'll be lots of disappointment.
Oh, yeah.
And that's the thing. There'll be a ton of disappointment. There'll be, things that aren't fair. There's going to be things that, quite frankly, are going to be roadblocks going to be put in your way. that are going to test us, right? They're going to test you as an individual. Only you know how much you can take. Only you know, am I going to go through or am I going to go around?
Yeah.
Only you know, how strong your support system is outside of the office, to get you where you need to go. So I think those are things that are up to the individual because, in this industry and even in any industry, it's not set up for us to have a golden path. And as long as we all know that, that helps us do what we need to do to be successful because nothing was handed to us, as we both know.
We know, yeah.
We take it, but it wasn't given to us, right? So we've had to build it in different ways. And it's something that, quite honestly, I share that as a story to say, my path is different from your path, but our paths were similar in the fact that we had to fight, we had to be resilient, we had to understand what, needs to be, relevant to going around or going through, and then also having this support. So I would say, keep yourself focused on that because we need more individuals like us in the industry to stick around.
Yeah,
right?
agreed. The retention is super important.
Yeah.
Well, those are all my questions.
Okay.
I think this was a fantastic conversation.
I loved it.
I think
Thanks.
it was great.
Thank
I
you.
thought it was clap. They didn't think it was great. I thought it was fantastic. Are there any questions for Julian and myself? Anybody? We answered everything? Jordan, go.
Good to see you, Julian. You touch upon some really important things and how the sports and entertainment business is, really fun and being immersed into the experience is really good. But I kind of want to ask you kind of some of the hardships and how you kind of overcame that and what directions that people who are just getting in the industry can take. And it's not going to be, a linear path. It's going to be all the way around and kind of like what steps, if that's going to come up in, someone's career, how they're going to take that next step in that direction.
Thanks for the question. It's a great question, Justin. I would say a couple of things. I definitely experienced hardships throughout my career in different areas. I think, obviously being the one of one in a lot of spaces in my career is something that you're consciously and subconsciously aware of, and by that, understanding that sometimes speaking your mind is not as easily done as it is with others in the room, right? I always talk about the subconscious support that groups have when there's a similarity in in look and feel and voice, and we all went to the same school, we all look the same, we all do these things a certain way. It's not that it's sameness, but there's a comfort zone in that. And so in a lot of cases in the early part of my career, I'm stepping into a space where there's a comfort zone for the individuals that are already there, right? And so, what did that look like? That looked like, my ideas, being, discounted. That looked like maybe not getting the advancement as quickly as I thought I should have. That also looked like, the fact that maybe, maybe I was too loud, maybe I was too gregarious, maybe, how does he fit into kind of what we're doing here? And I think now, those hardships were resilience, helped build resiliency in myself. I think what I ended up doing quite well is, as well as I always had a certain self-confidence in kind of my own abilities. And as I would say to a lot of folks, if you have that self-confidence, it'll come out in different ways. For me, it was like understanding that I could do a lot of things in bringing people together to create big, long-standing, equitable flagpole events that really were, kind of the tantamount of my career, right? Okay. People understand when they look at my resume, a lot of things that I've done, in each of the places I've been, it's like I leave a legacy behind, whether it is, events such as, Blue Jays Level of Excellence. I could say that was a program that I helped found and start, or Craft Hockeyville. That's a program that I helped deliver and take it to the next level, both in the U.S. and Canada. And and then other tentpole events that are across my CV. Like I say, those are things that I'm a part of because I embrace that about my own ability. Those are hardships that I looked at. Those are benefits I looked to overcome those hardships because you're always going to be in the beginning of your career, fighting kind of that doubt and that inequity because you are, quite frankly, one of one in these boardrooms. But it's getting better, And it's not that there was any element of injustice or malice that was put towards me in a certain way. It's just that, that comfort level I did not get, right?
Yeah.
That my peers got, to make mistakes. But I overcame that in my own way. So that's what I would say that hopefully is helpful as you kind of start your journey.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
We have another question.
Hi, friend. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm happy to see you made the trip to St. Catharines, so thank you both for coming. Mr. Franklin, question for you, sir. I'm curious, given your formidable resume and career, what would you tell any young person or somebody that's mid-career trying to make a transition? Like, what would you say to them with respect to kind of this conversation about sponsorship versus mentorship? Right? So I don't want to mess up the quote here, but I do recall Kim Davis, I believe, is the SVP at the NHL.
Yeah.
And I listened to an interview that really resonated with me. She said, mentors, they tell you, right? They can talk to you and tell you how to do things, how to navigate. Sponsors sell you.
Right.
Right? And I
Yeah.
think what I've recognized in my journey is that I've got a ton of mentors, amazing mentors,
Yeah.
some in this room right now. Sponsors? I don't know if I could say I have sponsors in the same way
Right.
because I haven't seen the benefit of maybe what that sponsorship would look like. So
Right.
I'm just curious if you could speak to that for a moment. Thank you.
It's a great question, and I think it's one that I would say we continue to be challenged with that because mentorship does, I can provide you advice, I can help guide you, but ultimately at the end of the day, in a lot of cases, individuals are looking, I need a job, I want to move up. I want to understand how I can get from manager to director. And oh, by the way, if you can help me understand getting a manager director, can you put me on, right? And quite honestly, those are things that, are much more difficult to do, right? Because of so many factors. There's only so many roles that individuals are going for that can happen. And there's, quite frankly, only so many opportunities that we have when it comes to spending dollars and budgets to make those happen. That's something that, from my level, I'm continuing to see how I can be not only a mentor, but a sponsor for a few individuals who, quite honestly, I see their journey and that engagement is there. So I think that, people in my position, we need to continue to be held accountable and tasked to that. How are we helping individuals get into organizations, stay in organizations at certain levels, and then, quite honestly, continue to advocate for them. So I think, we do not have a magic wand, but I think we do have the ability to kind of put people on and talk through that. And I think I know Kim, I know the great work she's done with the NHL and kind of what they continue to do. And it's something that, for me, in different parts of MLSE and even outside of MLSE through my contacts, for the individuals that I know well, that I feel that I can help and sponsor, put them on is really a component of what I do on a daily basis. So.
Thanks for your question.
Great question.
Yes, go ahead. We have one more question.
Yeah, hi. So I'm a person of color and I'm an international student, and I'm also actually studying sport management here as well. So my question's more related to how would someone who wants to get into business in general or sports business but isn't from here, how would they get, you mentioned foot in the door, because it's obviously slightly different. How would somebody like me or anybody else try and go through that path?
So it's a great question, and I think, the best way I could answer it is, over the next 24 months, 2.5 years, okay, let's say 27 months, especially in the GTA with the World Cup coming, with the growth of different sports, Cricket World Cup and those elements are coming as well. How are you able to maybe focus on areas that you feel that your time is going to be able to be valued, whether it's volunteering or being engaged in that way? Because I think for an international student such as yourself, you may not have the benefit of some of the preset, networking, elements that individuals may have. You're coming to Canada, so welcome. First and foremost, thank you for coming. Thank you for giving us your time, your best and your brightest efforts, to come to Brock, but also come to Canada. It's a story that, of resilience that many of us want, at an entry level that you can build, right? We at MLSE, have the benefit of having international students working in our departments, and we see what they can bring. But I do think that those are very rare because of just the fact we don't have that many roles. But I do think the ability to be open to volunteering, be open to networking, and be open to coming to events like this to build up your awareness, your name, your repertoire is kind of your first step. And then once that step is established, know that you cannot move off of that step. You have to continue networking and building your portfolio and starting fresh in this country, in this this industry is going to be required because there's just so many people that are trying to get in, right? And again, back to your differentiator, because the hard work is going to be there, but that's going to be table stakes. Your differentiator and maybe being focused, maybe understanding, who you need to talk to kind of work that, ability to kind of be a volunteer or do something, on off hours to get your name out there is going to be key. And hopefully it's going to resonate over the next couple of years for you to do something. But a lot of good things are happening in Toronto as well as Ontario over the next couple of years for someone who's in sport management.
Just to piggyback on Julian really quick, yes, volunteering is super important. I tell my students all the time, it's not what you know, it's not who you know, it's who knows you. So you have to be able to put yourself in a position where you can know people and they can know you as well.
Yep.
I know Barack and Michelle do not know me. This is the reason why we're doing what we're doing, right? So it's important for you to be put in a position where you get to meet as many people as you can.
Yeah.
Sport is a people game.
Yeah.
And you have to establish good relationships. Some of them might work, some of them might not, but it's all about putting yourself out there, and you have to give yourself a chance to actually want to succeed in that space. So volunteering is a good way to do it, nice and soft entry, or you can start even reaching out for informational interviews and getting people to talk to you about their careers, what they're doing. I think those things will help a lot, but you have to really put yourself out there in order for the opportunities to come your way.
And I'm going to put MG, because I call her MG, but Marsha on a little bit, there was a gap in our industry, and that's how BSB was created. She's like, look, this is an industry that I love. I'm doing all the right things, but I'm seeing something, there's a gap that I'm not speaking to me, and I need something that speaks to me. So she created a brand. She, started, this podcast is a part of a journey, right? Because before this podcast, we would have events, right?
Yes,
at parks where you just, hey, maybe it's, anybody who's black in sports industry, come out, let's have a, let's have a drink, cut a cake, and just hang out for an hour or two, in a park, and then it turned into Marsha now getting her name known and then sitting on panels across North America with ESPN and Sponsorship X and doing all these things. And then all the while she's still, doing what she's doing with her day job with CBC. And so the lesson is, at any age or any part of your career, if there's a gap that you see, you have the ability to take it on and do it yourself, because you can, right? And I think once people see that, people will follow you. And then people will understand you're a subject matter expert. And then people will be like, I'm going to go to you to help identify the need that I have within this industry. And then the most important thing, as you do that, remember the people that you meet, re-engage so they remember who you are, and also if you lead with the right level of empathy, people are going to want to help you, right? And it just kind of snowballs over and over. So I would say that, volunteering, networking, and if you see a gap, build it yourself, right? And it'll come, right?
There's so many gaps, fill them.
Yeah.
Fill all the gaps.
Yeah.
Well, that was fun.
That was a lot of fun.
You had a good time?
Yeah.
Would you come back?
I'll come back anytime.
Okay, we'll do it again.
Anytime.
So we have completed the first live recording of the BSB podcast, episode 5. Check it out online when it comes online. It's on YouTube, it's on Spotify. So thank you guys for being such a participatory audience. Clap yourselves. We don't get applause. I'm gonna milk it out.
Awesome.
So check out episode 5, and thank you guys for your time. We hope to continue to make the sport business space as lucrative as it can be. So thank you for listening to the BSB podcast.
Thank you. All right.
Yeah.
Good. Thank you.
I just want to add